Dude, what is up, bro?
What up, man? Rocking the icon gear.
The icon gear today, dude. And I know what you're rocking, bro. You are making names in the real estate space, bro. You're making a name for yourself. That goatee is spreading like wildfire, bro. I told you a month ago to trust the process. And somebody called me up earlier this week and was like, dude, since when is Scott rocking the goatee? And I was like, bro, he's been growing it out for a month. I told him to trust the process, and it's filling in. And he was like, yeah, dude, he's repping it really, really well. Bro, I'm just saying. I take 51% credit there just so I have an ownership stake. But I love it, dude. How is goatee life?
I don't know, bro. I don't know if you noticed this. I've gone 27 years without being able to. I don't know if I couldn't grow it, because I don't know if you call this growing it, but I play with it all the time. Like, it's like, you know how, I guess you don't know this, when you get new glasses, you're like hyper aware that there's something on your face. That's me right now. Just,
bro, it's like a little built-in fidget spinner, except you get to, yeah. Little built-in fidget spinner, bro.
Quite nice. Well, thank you for hyping me up on a Wednesday afternoon.
Not just me, dude. I told you it's making a name for itself in the real estate world, bro. So trust. Dude, I've got a little bit of an interesting topic I want to talk to you about today, and I'm very curious as to your thoughts, feelings, and insights. I mean, we've had a little bit of combos about it, but I think I'm really excited to flesh this out for 40 or 45 minutes. We've done quite a few previous episodes on starting with a team or joining a team. Obviously, you and I are part of a team, and we've talked on that a little bit. What I really want to break down, though, is obviously the word entrepreneur is very famous, right? That when I say the word entrepreneur, what does that mean to you?
Bro, I don't know what it means, because I don't even know how to say that word. Entrepreneur?
Hey,
dude,
good.
Screw the French. To me, are you asked, is that rhetorical, or was that an actual question?
No. Actual question.
I don't think it's limited strictly to like the person that owns a business. I think that goes to owner. Wow, this is a really good question. I guess if I were to try to describe it, I would say it's a business-minded person that strives in the small business world, right? Like, I've never tried to put this in writing, but, you know, I could tell you the characteristics of an entrepreneur. I don't know if I could define it.
Well, and here's the reason why I ask, and kind of what's the big one of the driving forces behind this discussion is recently a buddy of mine reached out. He was in, I guess you could call him an entrepreneur in the real estate space, so to speak, for a little bit. He then left the space, and now, you know, he was asking for advice on how do I get back into the game. And so I gave him the breakdown between, you know, an entrepreneur in the sense, and I think you tagged along the perfect word to kind of cohabitate with that, being the owner of the business, the guy who's responsible for the money in, money out, he hits his head on the pillow at night and he's there. But then I described more of what I would label myself. I'm sure this would be a similar label to yourself, with the word intrapreneur. When I say intrapreneur, instead of entrepreneur, intrapreneur, what does that mean to you? Non-rhetorical.
I mean, like, my brain went to inter versus intra, like introspective versus introspective. I don't know, like the business owner, or like the owner of your life.
So as an intrapreneur in the business space, and I use it as a business word, I was giving him a rundown of essentially what my professional life looks like. I wouldn't class myself as the entrepreneur owner in the traditional sense of the word. My the majority of my day-to-day and the majority of my professional work is done in somebody else's business, right? I'm not the owner of the business. My title within our team and our company is obviously COO. But just because the majority of my day is spent on somebody else's business, shout out Amazon guy dropping off a package, does not mean that there are not entrepreneurial aspects in my life. Just because I am spending the majority of my time in somebody else's business does not mean I'm not still working on growing my own portfolio or your and I's portfolio or doing something to build something of my own while I'm helping build our team's company. And so there was a period of time where you and I were running our complete own businesses. We were running our own sales, retail sales with our real estate license. We were running each of our own investment companies. Now, that looks a lot different for us. The majority of both of our times are spent in a company that is not owned by us. But I think what most people don't understand is, and that's why I'm drawing parallels back to some of the episodes where we talked about joining a team. Not only is it a great place to start, but when you have that professional experience, you have that time like you and I did where we went and tried doing our own thing, and it just didn't align with our personal goals, our professional goals, with a lot of other factors at stake. But that neither prohibits you or I from going and building something of our own and building something for our families. You went, even though you spend the day-to-day in somebody else's business, you've gone and recently bought a warehouse building. I've gone and recently bought an apartment building totally separate from the company that we're in. And so the reason I kind of wanted to have this discussion is I feel like too many people feel the pressure of trying to be an entrepreneur, running the show, doing their own thing, feeling the stress of all of that, not realizing there's a potential other option that you and I have been living out for multiple years now.
What an interesting topic.
I'm curious, dude, because we've spent time talking about how hard that period was where each of us were running our own businesses. We've now had, you're over 2 years. I'm coming up on 2 years of what I would classify as being intrapreneurs, spending the majority of our time building a company that we don't own, but still keeping our eyes on the horizons to build something of our own, separate from the company. Have you had to grapple with any like mental challenges, or essentially I want to open up the conversation just to break down the stigma between you don't have to be your own boss in the traditional sense in order to be successful in the business and entrepreneurial world. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I see the conversation, the premise you're building. I don't want to keep the air. You know how on radio you're not supposed to go silent. You're supposed to always keep it filled. In a podcast, we have your attention. You can see that we're not frozen. I was thinking about this the other day. So Jason and I were having a really important discussion. And let me answer your question first and then share my thought. Have I ever dealt with that feeling or negative self-talk that comes from like leaving being the CEO to being in somebody else's business? Yes. It's rare, but yes. And if I were to sum it up best, it's my pride. I think I've always been told that I'm like very business savvy, like even from a young age, like, oh, you're going to be all of your siblings' employer. Like that was a mantra that was said to me like all growing up. And I tie a lot of my self-worth to my ability to produce in the workplace, which is not a good thing, but has led to good results. So I have dealt with that before, especially and I never really shared this with you because ultimately it was my pride causing it, but like in our org chart, it's CEO Jason, COO Cade, sales director Scott. Now you guys treat me as an equal, and like ultimately I'm not, and that's okay. But I'm elite at what I do, and that's enough, right? Like that's what I think a lot of people struggle with. In terms of this intrapreneur versus entrepreneur, what really quells that negative feeling that makes it so rare is that, frankly, I don't have to run a business to be proud of what I'm building. Like, I am the CEO, co-owner with my wife for our family's business, and our family business is good, right? Like, that's just how it is. And so
it's the most important business there is, bro.
To tie it into the conversation, you know, Jason and I are having this very difficult conversation about some strategy we're doing. And I said, you know, I can't imagine the stress of the responsibility of, 16 families. Because that's ultimately what the CEO has, is the responsibility to help procure enough profit to pay all these families, right? A good owner, and I would say Jason is absolutely a good representation of an owner, eats last. Like, if the business ain't making money, the team all got paid. It's his family that eats last. And I think that's something that people, they put so much pride into. They don't think about that ramification. But, I'm very proud of what my family's doing, and I'm very proud to be part of a small business. I still get the exhilarating feeling because in a small business, dude, we're moving fast. We're changing quickly. Like, it's not this corporate, clock in, clock out. There's always a fire.
Yeah, dude, and this is part of the advice I was giving this guy was I think the hardest moment when you're trying to maybe grapple with this idea is the pride. And I think when you first make the jump, at least for me, when I came back close to 2 years ago and made the jump, I think that was the hardest part, because you're making the jump back into doing that. There's a bit of pride that you're leaving at the door. There's some negative self-talk that says, that you're telling yourself, oh, you weren't good enough to go and do it on your own. Here you are back knocking on mom and dad's door to come live back at home, in a sense. You know what I mean? And I think it's very, very important to check that pride at the door, because each and every single business person is different. Some people thrive and absolutely love being in that owner's seat. Not only do they thrive and love being in it, they're very, very good at it. But then there's people, and again, I'm bucketing both of us into this. Then there's people who went and did it, have done both. And I would argue that having done both, you and I have probably figured out each of our own individual professional identities, not to toot our own horns, but probably more locked in than a lot of people in our industry. I would make that argument all day, that you and I have such a clear vision of our professional identities and what we like and what we're good at and what our confidence level is in that I don't think there's anything wrong with checking that pride at the door, dude. I think it's a very mature self-discussion that people need to have with themselves if they're kind of struggling in this boat, or if they're thinking of making that leap. If an opportunity arises and they've maybe been struggling running their own thing, and there's an opportunity here where they can only do what they love doing the most, where their skill set brings the most value. And so and to tell themselves that just because they may go and do that, it doesn't put a hindrance on you going and being the CEO of your family. I love the analogy that you use, because that's the most important business. That's the most important unit at the end of the day. And so I think more people need to have this discussion and understand the difference between an entrepreneur and an intrapreneur, and decide where do they fit the mold best, and how can they best serve, not only in that role in a professional style, but then how can they best utilize that to serve as the CEO of their family?
Yeah. I mean, We can talk on, I guess, like our experience. I agree with you. I think, you know, the years that I was solo financially were my highest grossing years. And so, I mean, there's something to be said that I have some of the skill sets that align with an owner, right? But maybe the timing wasn't right. I'll tell you that my body was telling me the timing wasn't right. I mean, stress was eating me up. I was having a hard time sleeping. I was having a hard time eating, or sometimes the opposite, too much eating, right? You've seen my weight gain and weight loss. If people watch the podcast, you'll see me jump, 70 pounds and then come back down 60 pounds, right? Like I gained a ton of weight, then I lost a ton of weight. I think what stands out to me, and this is kind of the thing that I've had to tell a lot of young people, because young people tend to be the most like this, is really good CEOs, like business owners, make it look so easy. And that's because they are just that fucking good. Like, you and I have experienced how difficult it can be. And I think you're exactly right. It showed us the areas where we had a lot of success and it came naturally, or it was something we were interested in enough to learn at a high level. And then there were parts that weren't. Like, to this day, I still have anxiety looking at financials. And compared to like 99% of the population, my books are great. But to me, it's just not a thing that I love. It gives me a lot of anxiety and stress. And you're the opposite. Like, you like that stuff. And so it makes sense that you and I are complementary in our roles. But you're right. I mean, we only learn that by doing it ourselves. Not to say you have to do that, right? Like, the person listening, you don't have to go start your own business to learn this stuff. Just start like looking at your time and seeing what stuff gives you exciting, uplifting, positive feelings, and what stuff makes you anxious. Or like, a really good way to know this stuff is like, what is the stuff that you keep pushing off? That's probably stuff that doesn't bring you good energy, or you would just do it. You don't have to ask me twice to go get a coffee, but you have to ask me like 13 times to literally invoice, to literally get paid. I have to like get pinged to do it. I had to set up a note in our CRM to remind me to invoice. So it's just something to be aware of.
Yeah. And I don't know how this came into my head too, but it's interesting. We talk about being, let's just call it wearing the intrapreneur hat. Each of us has bought real estate in the past 2 years since wearing that hat. But what's interesting? All of the real estate you and I bought have been with other people. How would you classify those other people, your business partners, the caliber of those people in the past 2 years that you've partnered with on the real estate you've bought?
I am the lowest skilled, least valuable member of our entity.
Now,
by a long shot in my situation.
I don't know. I don't think it's causation. I don't know if it's correlation. Again, I think it's an interesting thing to talk about, because I think it ties back to each of us knowing how rock solid our professional identity is and growing the skills of being in a seat where we can get as dialed in as we can ever be in our lane and what we do. When these bigger real estate opportunities arise to go and buy long-term, buy and hold real estate that helps you run and be the CEO of your family and puts your family in a better position, the amount of caliber of people that you may partner with, that like and trust to bring in on that deal, that maybe have their own lane that they're in, and how powerful that can be with the real estate you're buying. That was just an interesting thing that popped into my head, because each of us has bought additional real estate, additional doors added to our portfolio since being in each of our seats, but none of it has been by ourselves. It's been with high level caliber partners on much bigger deals. And so I don't know if it's an accident. I really would argue that I think part of that strength and those opportunities don't come by accident. And I think when it's why you and I bought our rentals 6 years ago, was even 6 years ago when we were just getting started figuring out what our professional identities were. We knew that there was a rock solid partnership there that made sense. And I think over these past 6 years, as we've continued to chisel away and really hone in on what our diamond of professional value is, it makes it so much more powerful when these bigger opportunities arise and you're getting a piece of the pie. You're getting a slice of a watermelon as opposed to a whole grape by yourself.
Exactly right. I mean, those are the two analogies one analogy that really comes to mind is when we moved back into Jason's business, the goal was to get a slice of a bigger pie and to grow the pie, right? And to enjoy it while doing it. I did a quick GPT search here. What's the average?
Real quick, what's your chat GPT's name?
Jack, because he's Australian.
I named mine Bruce.
Oh, you did name yours. See, I gave mine the option to name itself. He'll like me more.
Oh, did he? Did you really?
You know what's crazy? This is a side note. My brother Tim asked his chat GPT what name it wants to be called. I will tell you this. Both of our chat GPTs suggested Sunny. That's a little scary. So maybe word of the wise, I am legend, status. Just name your chat GPT Sunny. Say, hey, what do you want to be named? When it says Sunny, say, great, Sunny it is. Okay. We're off topic, but I wanted to look this up because there's an overarching point here is what is the average age of an owner who starts a Fortune 500 business? Like in the current Fortune 500, what do you think the average age of the owner was when they started it?
It's a really great question.
Take a guess.
The age of the average owner of a Fortune 500 company. I'm going young. I'm going 22.
It's 45.
No,
what does that
fucking
tell
way.
you? What that tells me is
That's wild.
when I was 22 running a real estate business with team members that was making money, and granted, this was COVID times, right? Any idiot can make money. I was one of those idiots. But they're 45. And what that tells me is those people, it's not their first business that crushes, right? That's not their first company. And I think there's a level of maturity that you need to have to really be a good CEO and a good owner. Because frankly, if the owner panics, the business fails. And there are plenty of opportunities that lead to panic. And one of the roles that you and I play in our company is buffering reasons to panic. When shit hits the fan, you and I are specifically tasked to come up with a solution before it hits the owner's ears and to call the shot unless you don't feel that it's in the best interest of the company. And I'm seeing that today. My day got completely blown up because something popped up that could lead to kind of a big swing in our business plan here. You had this happen before. People don't realize that as you elevate up the leadership totem pole from that base level employee to where you and I are at, which is I don't know, I wouldn't say mid-level, but in a small business, we're high level managers up to the owner. As you go up that ladder, all you get are the hardest problems nobody else could solve. And that's a really, really hard place to be. And if you're going to pick that role because of pride, I would really challenge you. And maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the only person that has a bit of their pride involved in that decision on why they would want to be owner. But, I asked Jack, give me a definition for entrepreneur, which I spelled wildly wrong. Is a person who organizes, manages, and assumes the risk of a business or enterprise in order to make it a profit. That's all the owner really is the person that has all of the risk. And I think if you're looking for all the other benefits, right? Take profit aside because you and I both can make money in our role. everything else you and I have a part in, except a massive portion of the risk. Right? We get ownership, authority, we get creative inspiration, we get to navigate, we get to lead people, we get to inspire, we get to grow the business. We don't make all the upside, but we also don't have all the downside risk that keeps you up at night, that stresses your family out, right? And at the end of the day, like, I think that's the big difference.
All while doing and focusing on the thing that we're best at and the thing that we enjoy most doing, which has the trickle-down effect on how you operate in your personal life, how happy you are when you clock out and head home to your family, how present and happy you are with them, how present and happy you are outside of work, with friends, with family, all of that, dude. I kind of want to talk about, because at least this was something that grappled in my mind. I'm curious. I'm very positive you're probably going to say it was something you grappled with too. And if both of us have grappled with it, I'm sure anybody in any similar type of position that we are in or have been in, it's a question that they would ask themselves. And I want to see if we can provide any truth or non-truth to this. A stigma potentially with being, what will other people think? Is anybody going to respect me less? Are they going to think that I quit? Are they going to treat me differently because I went and did this? What's your experience been? Not only with that thought going into it, has that been reality for you?
Honestly, I don't know if it's been as much about going back as it is the respect in, again, this all comes back to pride, dude. Like, I think I really struggle with ego and pride. I think every young man does.
Yeah.
I think young men are very subject to like financial pride because that's how you're measured in a lot of worlds. But I think it's like more the other people around me. Like, do they respect my prowess and my opinion because I'm not the owner, right? I'm talking to a bunch of guys that are the owner, and then I wonder to myself, like, I wonder if they devalue my opinion because at the end of the day, I work for somebody else. And honestly, the answer is sometimes, yeah. But the people that I get along with really well, like I was just on the phone with another business owner, and dude, like that dude has told me like 8 times that he very much respects my opinion, and he reaches out to me for comps in town and deal underwriting. And this is a very experienced person. And so I know that like the people doing high level business don't judge based on role. They judge based on opinion. And you can prove yourself through what you actually know and how you perform, not your job title.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say, are there people who will?
Yeah.
Absolutely there are. Of course there are. And there always will be. But if you analyze the people that you and I are surrounding ourselves with on the majority of the basis, when you take a look at your top 5 circle, are any one of those people doing that? Absolutely not. There will, of course, always be those people who do. I would argue that those are people you probably don't want to be surrounding yourself with anyway. And there's going to be
100%.
higher level CEOs and business owners who are, by Jack's definition, an entrepreneur. But when you have the track record, the reputation, the integrity, the list goes on and on to back up your experience and your opinion, it's not going to stop people from coming to you for help, coming to you to bounce ideas off of, coming to you for your expertise in your swim lane that you've been able to dial in arguably better than most people because you're not having to deal with the bullshit of any other department or wearing any other hats. I would argue that while there will be those people, it's so nominal, it doesn't even matter. And when there are, don't surround yourself with people like that, because more often than not, they're not people who you want to be surrounding yourself with anyway.
That's it, dude. Like, our mindset, like, our company culture has always been very much about being in alignment and Kaizen, like constant self-improvement. You know what stood out to me as you're talking about this is, like, you made a reference, like, we've got our shit dialed in so much better because we're not distracted. It like reminded me of when you brought up, like, if you're going to be a busser in a restaurant, be the best damn busser you can be. Like, this is me. I got goosebumps. I'm talking to myself. I'm acting all inspiring, but, like, this is important for me to hear right now, which is, like, dude, don't play the comparison game and steal yourself of all your happiness. Just become elite at what you're doing and constantly have a yearning to learn more and follow the things that give you energy. Like, you know, my income went up and then went down when I joined the team. And guess what? It's back up, because there's something to be said when you're doing something you like and you're good at. You get value back from the market. I am providing value in my specific role. I'm never going to make owner money without owner risk. And if right now I don't want owner risk and I don't want to be doing all those extra tasks until I learn all that, oh my gosh, who is that? Somebody in the background. That Amazon guy. Oh,
Amazon guy. You probably
it's Dillionaire
package here. It is special guest appearance.
Exactly what you're saying. It just become elite and get really dialed in at what you do. And guess what? You may change as a person by the time you're 45.
And guess what, dude? When you become elite at what you're doing, you attract the right people. Everything else falls into place. And again, I make the argument that although in the main space of your professional world, you're not the owner, you're part owner of a massive multi-million-dollar warehouse building now in Fresno. So it doesn't mean you can never wear the owner hat in any capacity. You're just wearing an owner hat where in that specific scenario, the risk is mitigated. You're so dialed into your lane, and you've got your other partners and you've got the other people there to support you and fill in their lane, to where you can still wear an owner hat in other aspects of your professional world and professional business, even if it's not your main bread and butter. That was the biggest thing I tried to drive home to this guy, and the biggest thing I'm trying to drive home in this podcast is you only put the blinds on when you put them on yourself. If you tell yourself you can't go and do X, Y, and Z just because you go to do this, then you're absolutely right. You won't be able to do any of that. I'm just trying to open up people's eyes to where there's not just one perfect road that everybody needs to take in order to be successful in real estate. And I think the more people are able to figure out their professional identity, get the experience on both sides. That's why we came out with multiple episodes on why we thought the best place to start, if you're going to start anywhere, is to start on a team. Start on a team. If you grow your wings and you flourish, go try it on your own. If you like it, great. Double down and become elite at being the owner, at being the guy at the top of the totem pole or the gal at the top of the totem pole who can do it, who loves doing it. And if you don't, that's okay too. Leave your pride at the door. You and I both had to do that. There's moments, I'm sure, same as you. There's moments now, obviously, in much less frequency, but there's still moments where we got to do it. But it doesn't prohibit or hinder your success in being a business owner and having entrepreneurial traits just because you may choose one path over the other. And so that was my advice to this guy was, you got to figure out what you're doing, figure out which path you want to take. And if you do choose the path of being an intrapreneur, check your pride at the door and tell yourself that it's not handcuffs that's going to hold you back. There's so much value and freedom that's going to happen in your professional world and your personal life, that it's just going to be able to help you perform better if that's the lane that makes you feel the best. And I think both you and I have figured that out over the course of the past 6 and 7 years, or 7 and 8 years, whatever it is.
No, I 100% agree. And like the last kind of talking point on this whole point of working in a business is, dumb people make mistakes and don't learn from it. Normal people make mistakes and learn from it. And smart people let other people make mistakes and learn from their mistakes. And you and I both ended up learning how to make mistakes and learn from it. And now we're fast tracking and we're learning things that we didn't have to get burned on because we're part of somebody else's organization. We're building it out, and we're not always the one that has to take the hit. And hits happen all the time. And if you go into business thinking it's not going to be that, you're cracked out. Most people make less money than you think as the owner, and you just have to accept that. And, I look at it, my ownership journey is not done. Kayla asked me that the other day. She was like, do you think you'll ever own a business again? And I told her, yeah, I think when I'm 50, I will probably own a dozen businesses. Like, it does not, I think when I started, I was not ready then, but look at the difference between 18 and now. And so if you're going to try to convince me that I go the same amount of time I've lived my whole life into the future and I'm not going to be that person, if that's what I want to do, I'm going to do it. And I'm on that trajectory. But right now, I'm loving building out a team that's elite, creating a process that doesn't require me to be there, that is all focused on the stuff that I'm really good at. And then guess what? When I have that time back, what am I going to focus on? The other parts of the business that I don't know, that make me uncomfortable, that put me out of alignment. And either I'll learn that or I'll learn how to hire that person.
Exactly right, dude. Again, when you put the blinders on yourself, you're only going to see that one road. You're only going to see that one path. I think when you open up the blinders to other possibilities, I mean, think about most successful people, dude. They get very, very elite at one thing, but I love the analogy you said. Like, right, when I'm 50, I'll probably own a dozen different businesses. I'll own real estate here, some by myself, a lot with a lot of other people that I know, like, and trust. I'm going to own this small business that I'm doing here. I'm going to run this data company with somebody else who's got the vision, and I'm you know what I mean? Most people, I think it's good to start there at getting absolutely elite. And then you said it best, that the average age of the number one, or the owner of Fortune 500 companies is what, 42, 43? Dude,
45.
The blinders, 45.
Age 45 to start the company, not current age. They started the company at 45.
Crazy.
I guarantee the person you were talking to was not 45.
Absolutely not.
And had not been in the industry for a period of time.
Absolutely not.
Probably has not ran successful businesses yet.
Absolutely not. So
why would you expect that you're going to be better than the 98% of people that fall out of the business? Like, this is a really interesting topic, man. Good idea.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it's something you and I have talked about. I mean, occasionally, right? I mean, when you made the jump to join the team about a year before I did, then when the opportunity came for me to join the team, you and I had some discussions, but I mean, there's never really been a sit down discussion like this for coming up on 40 minutes, where I think my biggest goal was just to pull back the curtain on some of the stigma, some of the whatever, just to have an open and honest conversation about what it really feels, looks like to be in each of the seats that you and I are in. And so I think the handcuffs only go on when you put them on yourself. And if you limit yourself to one possibility and you tell yourself one thing, then yeah, that's what it's going to be. But if you tell yourself that you can get dialed in, you can get elite at what you like doing, that you're the best at doing, it's going to open up so many other doors that you didn't even know were going to be there. Like, bro, we're sitting here 26 and 27. 50's fucking almost double our life from now, dude. I guarantee you it's going to be exactly like you just said. The owner seats, the owner seat will be there. The owner seat can be there in any capacity you want it to be. As long as you tell yourself you're not holding back just because you're spending right now a lot of the time maybe in somebody else's business and not being the guy at the top of the totem pole.
It's not that I don't think I could be an owner right now. I don't think I could be an owner right now and enjoy it. And that's where it really comes down to. Hey, leave a comment below if you think we're idiots or if you devalue our opinion.
Yeah. All of you listening, you're either listening. We were looking at our YouTube. We've got over 40,000 streams on YouTube across all of our videos. So you're either listening because you do think we're idiots and you just love making fun of us and gassing yourself up and boosting up your pride and ego, or you actually pull some value out of this shit. And so if you do, show us some love. Either way, show us the hate too. I want to see him, bro. Show us the hate. Show us the love.
It's just our moms watching the videos on repeat.
I probably account for half of those streams just opening up my laptop, iPad, PC, and just streaming different episodes
8 hours
for months
a night.
on end.
Dude, good topic, man.
Dude, we'll leave the listeners, whether you're listening or watching, with a little insight into next week's episode. We are having our first guest on our podcast since the shift to the virtual format. I am absolutely stoked for who we're going to have on. Has made a tremendous impact in our businesses. Highly successful business owner. Where's she out of?
Alabama.
Out of Ala-frickin-Bama. Coming on the podcast next week. Going to be an absolutely great episode. Very excited for that. So stay tuned, and we will see you guys back next week on the Pursuit of Property podcast, baby. Let's roll.
See you guys.